Hello, Mr. Beard here. I'm going to walk you through a virtual study session so that you can better prepare for the final tomorrow. Remember, though, that the final is skills-based. With that being said, you do want to be up to date and comfortable with all of these terms that I'm going to walk you through so that when you see them on the final tomorrow, you'll feel very comfortable applying them. With that being said, let's begin. We'll start with the parts of speech. Remember, there are 8 parts of speech. They're the tools in a sentence, such as nouns, which are person, places, things, or ideas, pronouns, which take the place of a noun, verbs, which are actions or a state of being, adjectives, which modify nouns, adverbs, which modify verbs, prepositions, which tell you relationships. So, a good key there is, can you do it in relation to a box, in a box, on a box, around a box, by a box, through a box, etc. Conjunctions, which connect, and interjections, which express extreme emotions. Let's take a look at a sample sentence that has all 8 parts of speech. Yes, said the smart and dedicated student after he easily passed the final. Yes is expressing extreme emotion, and it is an interjection. Said is an action verb. The is an adjective. We call that an article adjective. Smart is an adjective. Remember, we said adjectives modify nouns. In this case, smart is modifying the noun student. It's telling us what kind of student, what type of student. And is a conjunction. Remember, conjunctions join 2 things. And is a coordinated conjunction. It's joining smart to dedicated. So it's joining those 2 things. Dedicated is, again, modifying the noun student. So it is an adjective. After tells us relationship. It is a preposition. He takes the place of a noun. So it's a pronoun. In this case, it's taking the place of the noun student. It's replacing that noun student. Student is it's what we call antecedent. Easily is an adverb. Here's a little pro tip. Adverbs most often end in ly. They most often end in ly. Again, though, what they do in a sentence is they modify verbs. It tells you how he passed the test. So passed is an action verb. The, again, article, adjective, and final is a noun. So those are the 8 parts of speech. Again, when looking at adverbs, remember they often end in ly. When thinking about prepositions, ask if it could be done in relation to a box, after the box, so after this preposition. We have been working on these all semester, and I'm fairly confident that you guys will do very well on this section of the final. Next, we have lit terms. Simile is a way to describe something by comparing 2 unlike things to make a point, using like or as. For example, she is as fast as a rabbit. So you're saying the girl is very fast, like a rabbit is very fast. So you're comparing these 2 unlike things, the girl's speed to a rabbit's speed, using as. She is as fast as a rabbit. You're connecting the girl's speed to rabbit speed to make the point that, yeah, she's pretty fast. A metaphor does the same thing, but it does not use like or as. For example, he looks tough, but that truck driver is a big teddy bear. So you're connecting this truck driver to a big teddy bear, making the point that although he looks intimidating, he's actually a really friendly, warm fella. Epic simile. Remember, a simile connects 2 things using like or as. An epic simile does the same thing. Remember, when we read the Odyssey, which is an epic, it's big, it's long, it's grand. So an epic simile connects 2 big, grand ideas like humanity or armies things that are just big, and it does it in a big, bold fashion with a really long simile. Let me give you an example. As is the generation of leaves, so is that of humanity. The wind scatters the leaves on the ground, but the live timber burgeons with leaves again in the season of spring returning. With leaves again in the season of spring returning, so one generation of men will grow while another dies. So you're connecting these big ideas, humanity to a generation of leaves. And look how long this simile is. It's a really big, long simile. Theme is simply the central idea in a story. For example, the theme in Of Mice and Men, one of them was friendship. Another central idea in the story was loneliness. So the central idea in a story, and we've talked about this, and you guys have shown me that you know this. So I'm confident you'll be able to recognize it tomorrow in the final. Flashback is the way an author presents material that occurred earlier than the present tense of a story. So it's going back, showing us more information about what happened before. Foreshadowing hints at what is to come later, giving us clues. Remember we talked about Chekhov's gun, the idea that if a gun is shown in the first chapter, you can bet that gun will be used at some point later in the story. We saw that in Of Mice and Men when they made the point that Curly's gun was stolen, so we could imagine that that gun would be used, and unfortunately it was. Tone, the feeling the author puts into the story, whereas mood is the feeling the reader gets from a work. Epiphany is when a character has a sudden realization, like that aha moment, that light bulb moment, when they realize, oh, so this person is the killer, or this person is really in love with this other character. That is an epiphany, when they suddenly realize what's in front of them. Personification is giving human qualities to non-human objects. For example, the wind whispered through the trees. Wind can't really whisper, people whisper. So that is giving human quality to the wind to make the point that it was moving quietly through the trees. An inference is when you use prior knowledge or evidence at hand to come to a conclusion about something, a realization about something that is not stated directly. For example, in Of Mice and Men, we have this character called Curly who's a bully. It never comes right out and says that Curly's insecure, but it gives us a lot of hints that he's kind of an insecure guy, and we have to infer that he is insecure, even though it's not said directly. Alright, the next section, we're going to walk through a plot diagram. There will be a plot diagram on the final that you will need to go through and fill out. We have done several examples of these in class, and this is something that you guys have been doing, honestly, since 6th grade. So I know you are fairly comfortable with this, and I'm really confident that you will nail this part of the final. But let's walk through it. So you can see as the character, the story ebbs and flows. But let's walk through the specifics as soon as my little climber guy gets out of the way here. Alright, so exposition occurs at the beginning of a short story. You can pause this and read all of that if you like, but remember, exposition is the beginning of a short story where we are introduced to the main problem in the story or the conflict. Rising action is the part of the story where the conflict begins to develop and the suspense starts to ratchet up. So that's rising action, which leads to the climax, which is the most intense part of the story. After the climax, we have the falling action, where all loose ends start to get tied up, which leads to the resolution, where the story comes to a reasonable ending. So putting it all together, just to quickly recap that, exposition is the beginning of the story. The rising action takes you to climax, which is the middle of the story, or the most exciting part of the story, or a turning point in the story, where the main character comes head-to-head with the central conflict in the story. Falling action and resolution occur at the end of a story. Alright. I'm going to quickly point you back to our study guide that you have to show you exactly what you need. You've gone through, you've checked off the things that will be on the final, along with a couple other notes of things you're going to need to know. All of these things, honestly, are things that we have been working on for a couple months now. So just memorizing them is a good first start, but it's not enough. You need to be comfortable enough with them that when you see them on the final, you can apply them. After our review session in class today, I know that you guys are going to come in here tomorrow and just knock the socks off of this final and do a great job. And I'm excited to see the results. So, get to studying. I know you've got a lot of finals. Make sure you get plenty of sleep and you're eating well so you're energized and ready to go tomorrow on Friday. Have a good night. We'll see you in the morning.